Okay. I guess that you could call this episode 1.5 of my podcast series entitled Vulnerability. As you can tell, it's a very different location, and all the other stuff is all different compared to what normally happens with the podcast, but I felt it to be important to do this video. And I want to give a little bit of precursor information. I'm not producing this video for any desired, how would I phrase it? I'm not in need of anything. In fact, I had a whole lot of reservation in making this video because I didn't want it to seem as if I was trying to produce content out of a place of distress for the sake of views. But as I prayed on it, I had this continued urge to make this video because I believe that there is a real opportunity for God's glory and almighty beauty to be displayed through the testimony of this story. So let's start back in May or April of 2023. It is the beginning of my tour entitled For the Love of It, and I am in San Jose getting ready to catch a flight to Florida. I get on my plane. The plane then stops working. Not while we're in the air, thank God, but we get booted off the plane. It's a red eye. It's my last flight that I could possibly catch to make it on time to this gig in Florida that I'm supposed to go do. And so I'm sitting in my hotel. I'm, sending my emails and my text messages and my phone calls to the people out in Florida, letting them know I wouldn't be able to make it. And I go through this panic attack, essentially, like massive distress, sat there unable to move for, I would probably say, a few hours. And as I prayed and I asked God, I'm like, what is this? What are you trying to tell me? What I heard clearly back from God is, it's time to step away. It's time to step away. And the way I interpreted and properly interpreted was, Brandon, it's time to step away from the stage, from performing, from pursuing after other people's adoration. It's time for you to come back to me. It's time for you to come back home to your family, to your community. It's time to be planted somewhere. So I finished my tour. We knocked that out. August, it's a wrap. And then I come home and I'm like, all right, God, so like, how long am I supposed to be gone? How long is this, thing's supposed to be over? And over the course of that time, those like 2 to 3 months, what I heard back was 3 years. 3 years. And I'm like, 3 years is such a long time. Like, I have no idea if I'll even have an audience, a fan base, or anybody to come back to after 3 years. I'm like, that seems kind of a lot. And I pray continuously, Jesus, what are you talking to me about? Yahweh, hear me. And the cool part was, I heard 3 years the first time, and then I heard absolutely nothing after that, which, how I know God to answer prayer, there is no such thing as an unanswered prayer. There's God saying yes, there's God saying no, there's God saying in time, and there is God saying, hey, chill. I took that as, hey, I already gave you the answer. Chill. Just wait for me. And so I'm like, cool. 3 years. I am now back home. I'm doing my work at my schools. I'm still teaching, but I'm not performing. I'm not doing anything in that regard. And it's actually going really well. And then one of my children develops a really bad skin rash. They develop a really bad skin rash. And at first we just think it's eczema. We try to treat it with the over-the-counter creams and do the whole thing. And then they start complaining about their legs hurting. And we think that it is just growing pains. And that, oh, hey, these are the normal bits of, having a child and them getting older. And the eczema thing also kind of made sense because my mom has eczema. A lot of my family has sensitive skin. The rash doesn't go away. In fact, it continues to get worse and worse and worse with time. And the leg pain gets far worse, like far worse. And at this point we say, hey, this is not normal. We need to go seek medical attention. So we go to urgent care, and the doctor at the urgent care responds back and says, hey, I think you should go get some blood work done because we think that your child might have lupus or leukemia. I'm not there because, as I mentioned, I have 2 children, so I have to stay home with the other child while my wife goes out and is with a child who's not doing well. And I get the phone call from my wife about it, and I could tell her heart's already sunk, and my heart then sinks. We have a brief conversation and a quick prayer, and we go to the ER, we go get blood work done, and thank God the tests all come back negative. No lupus, no leukemia. But now we have a slew of questions. And so from here, now we have to start doctor's appointments, more and more blood work. I'm talking about 9 blood draws over the course of 3 weeks. And for a little human, this is a very confusing, painful, and disorienting process. And for a parent, it is immensely distressing, I would say, because now we are placed in this powerless position of having to say, I can do nothing more for you than what I have already done. And I have to trust the medical professionals. And more importantly than that, I have to trust that God is going to love you more than I possibly can in this moment and care for you. We go through all this. What comes to light is my child's liver enzymes are like 100 times what they should be. Particular muscle proteins are like 200 to 300 times what they're supposed to be. And that's what's causing the lack of mobility. That's what's causing the muscle weakness and fatigue. And so we address this as if it's a liver issue that's then also compromising the muscle. And we're like, hey, so like, how do we deal with this? And they're like, well, if it's viral, then there's nothing we can do. We just kind of got to wait for it to take its course. But if it's like a potential like liver issue, then we will, potentially have to look at medications. If the medications don't take hold, then we'll have to look at, potential, transplants or replacements. And this is where I'll pause. I can't tell you the emotions that ran through my mind at nights. All the nights that I would sit down in my living room, laid down on the floor, or in the bathtub, in the shower, in my car, just desperately praying to God, like, yo, give it to me. Give it to me. I understand that you might, you can take it away, but if that's not, I'll take it. I'll bear it. I'll be immobile. If I can never move a muscle again, I will take every last ounce of it. Just give it to me. Give it to me. Praying, listening to worship music. And we do all this blood work, we do all this testing, and then I always mispronounce this, so forgive me if I mispronounce this word, but we hear from a family friend that we should, get referred to a specialist, a rheumatologist in particular. It's either rheumatologist or rheumanologist, one of the two. And so we ask, we say, hey, can we get referred to a rheumanologist, so that way they can, check it out and see what they're thinking. And so we do, and then we go out to the hospital in about like an hour away from us where the specialist is, and they sit us down and they essentially walk us through the fact that like, hey, we think that your current pediatrician has it backwards. They believe it to be a liver issue that has caused muscle compromising. We believe it to be a muscle issue that has caused the liver to compromise. Essentially what they tell us is they believe that our child has a muscular autoimmune disease. It's causing severe muscle weakness, fatigue, and if untreated for too long, permanent damage that won't actually be able to come back. And then now we're here. Not like right now, but this is still in the past. But we're at this moment in this hospital room with my two children and my wife and I just look each other in the eyes, and I can tell by the look in my wife's eyes that she's keeping strong so that way our children don't fear. But she is frantic inside. And I can tell that when she looks in my eyes, she sees the exact same thing. That we're both putting up a good face. That we're both smiling as we were driving to Panda Express to grab dinner. But that the moment that these kids go to bed, that we are going to be scrambling around treatments, hospital visitations, overnight stays, trying to figure out if this diagnosis is even real or not. And it's beautiful to have some answers. It's just hard to absorb answers that aren't the ones you hope for, because you pray and you ask God for the supernatural miracle to occur, because you know him to be Jehovah Rapha, a healer, somebody who shows up to be able to take the pain away. You see these examples in other people's lives biblically, Like you see the leper who reaches out and touches Jesus's robe. You see the person whose friends literally lower him in through the roof and Jesus heals him. You see the blind people who God touched their eyes and they were then able to see. And then I see the countless examples of people who I've seen in real time, in real life, be able to be freed. Folks who couldn't walk be able to walk again. People who, were dealing with lifelong cancer issues, then gone in an instant. And these types of things have happened. And you just pray that you can be the next recipient. Just because it doesn't come the way you hope doesn't mean that God's not present, but it's hard. It's hard to feel and know that in a moment when that's all you're looking for. So we get that information. Around this time, we have a cruise planned for my boy's birthday, and so we're supposed to go. And I'm asking my wife, I'm like, yo, should we go? Like, should we even head out? Like, with all this stuff happening, like, should we stay close to home? And my wife's like, this might be one of our last normal vacations for a while. I think we should do it. And I'm like, okay, let's rock. And one thing that we do before we leave is we get our house tested for mold. Because online Google sleuthing, we're like, oh, some of these symptoms that our kid is having is, could be a symptom of mold poisoning. And, we might be able to deal with that. So we have that happen. Then we take off. And while on this cruise, our child miraculously starts doing way better. I mean, this is the same young person who could not walk upstairs at all, now climbing flights of stairs on this boat. The same young person who would not run up and down the street with their friends anymore because their legs hurt so much, who is now zipping up and down the dock of this boat. And we're like, yo, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Rash is starting to, mend itself a bit. All these things. And we're like, we don't want to get our hopes up too much. And I'm the big optimist. I'm like, hey, miracles showed up. It's already happening. It's already here. It's done. And my wife's reminding me like, let's keep a level head, Brandon. And I'm like, you right. You right. Let's do that. But I'm like, can we also still thank God for what has already occurred? Because we asked for this. We even asked for the faintest bit of hope in the midst of this. We get done with the cruise. We come back home. The little one is doing really well, scootering up and down the street, playing with their friends on the playground, going up and down the stairs. We're doing exercises of stretches and, step ups and squats and all this other stuff to get their legs strong again. And then they get sick. And then we start seeing more muscle fatigue. And the test results come back. Our house is positive for a very bad form of black mold, which is now one of three things. One, our child still has this autoimmune disease, and the black mold is simply worsening the effects of the disease. And removal of the mold then improves our child's condition. Two, black mold can cause certain autoimmune diseases to occur, which means the black mold existed for an extended period of time and then induced this autoimmune issue. Or the third one, which, by the way, we don't have an answer to this yet. So if you're praying for us, be praying that it's this third one. The third one being, our child is simply suffering from continuous mold poisoning, and that by removing the mold, we will completely remove everything that is causing the issue. We get this news 2 days after Christmas. And now, we have to move. We have to relocate. We have to get a new place to stay. We have to get in touch with insurance agencies. We have to figure out how to, where the source of this mold is, because though we tested positive, there was no physical signs of any of the mold anywhere in the home. And so we go, I get us an Airbnb for 2 weeks, and I'm like, hey, let's get a mold specialist and a mold treatment specialist here immediately. Get them on the books. They find that black mold is all over every single one of our window sills, and that's potentially what the whole thing has been. They check underneath the home. They see that there's no mold on the foundation or on the under part of our wood for the floors. God bless. And all of these things. And so we get it treated. We've been at a house for a couple of weeks. We just got our house retested again. We're waiting on results, and then we're gonna see if it's in our heating and air ducts, because if it's there, then we have to completely gut those out and do all that work. All the while, we're down to one car for a cool minute. And now fortunately we got back up to two, navigating our child's continuous health cycles in terms of trying to make sure that all that is done and ensuring that our other child doesn't feel neglected based off of the needs that we have to treat for our other child. I painted a picture of all the things that have gone wrong. I would like to show you the ways that I have seen God through this whole process. I started the story by talking about my journey with poetry coming to a hiatus, a sabbatical, if you will, and asking God, why 3 years? Why 3 years? This doesn't make sense to me. My sabbatical started in August of 2023, the end of it. It is now January 2024. That's about 6 months, maybe 7. If our child does have this autoimmune issue, it is a 2-year treatment process. You do the math on that, that's about 3 years. If I worked any other job than the one I currently do in terms of, by the way, I would like to give a massive shout out to Lincoln Unified School District here in Stockton, California. They have provided me a residency to be able to go and do poetic workshops with students who I have been in absolute love with the entire time I've gotten the chance to work with them. And I have been overjoyed at their response and their willingness to allow me time to be able to be with my family. Granted me 2 weeks off extra so that way I could tend to the needs of my child to make sure that they were cool. And so Lincoln Unified School District, if there is nothing else that anybody takes from this, it's not, I hope that they see God in this first and foremost. But the second thing would be just how wonderful of a district you all are, leadership down. Like, you all have taken care of me and my family immensely, and no matter what may happen moving forward, I am forever indebted to you. So I would like to say thank you for that. But that's 3 years. So remember when I told you, like, God says, hey, yo, chill, just wait on me? I got my answer. It took me 6 months to get an answer as to why 3 years was the time period, but I got an answer. All those nights that I spent bargaining with God, asking God to show up. There's this song by Maverick City Choir entitled God Problems, and my child will listen to it and will ask for it. They will call it their blood song because they say the word blood in the song. And I saw my child lift their hands up in praise right before going to go get their like 8th blood draw in like 3 weeks and just worship God in a way that I was physically and emotionally and spiritually incapable of in the moment. And I saw this young kid just look up to heaven and say, there's not a problem that God can't solve, Daddy. There's not a problem that God can't solve. And so I saw God show up in my kid's life. Because that's all you can pray for, is that they'll get the chance to actually see God in real time. And I've been privileged in the sense that this distress has caused such a real beautiful spiritual revival in our household. And then with the job I do, being able to like go to different schools, perform, do workshops, and keep it all localized, I can make more money if necessary on the days that I'm not doing stuff. And fam, when I tell you, if I was in any other financial situation, working any other like average 9-to-5 job where like I couldn't seemingly increase my income based on my effort, I would not be able to survive this. I'm not gonna go into all the details, but I'll put it to you this way. From medical bills to housing stuff to having to get ourselves rehoused, it's been upwards of like $15,000 to $20,000 that my family has had to pay over the last like 4 months to try to make sure that all this gets taken care of. But God looked at my talents. God looked at me as a person and said, hey, you are honoring me with them. I'm going to honor you back by giving you the sustenance that you need in this time. I've seen God's fingerprints all throughout this situation, and has it always gone the way I hoped? Hell no. Hell no, it hasn't. I wished and prayed that this whole thing would have been done in November, so that way we could have had a easy and peaceful Christmas, walk into a new year in my own home, which we did not get the chance to do. But God has still been good. God has still been so damn good. So damn good. And I am here now. And you're wondering, well, why would you share this? Well, this podcast is entitled Vulnerability. And this is me being vulnerable. The likely nature is these next 2 years of my life are going to be drastically different than I ever imagined them being. And I'm asking for your support. But the biggest thing you can do for me, do for my family, pray for us. Pray for us. If you are close to me, meaning you have my phone number, check in on me. If you're not a believer in Jesus Christ, it's okay if you still hit me up, if you're still praying for me. I promise you, this year you're going to hear more about my relationship with God and with Jesus than I have ever done before. But with that in mind, I know this story I have, the story that my family has, is a testament and a testimony to how God has continued to remain faithful, even in the seasons of life that I never thought that God was there. When I questioned, when I prodded, when I was like, yo, God can't be here. God has been here. God answered a prayer I didn't know. God answered a prayer that I sent up months ago, years ago, when I won the damn show, when I started doing poetry, when I started being able to develop the things, when I went through the pitfalls. God provided for me then, so that when I got to this season right here, right now, I would have the finances to have it. I'd have the character to be able to do the things I needed to do. I could learn from the lumps I took before to be able to be who I needed to be now, so I could be able to get the blessings that were coming my way, knowing the trials that would also be running through this road. So if you're wondering how I've been, why the cryptic Instagram posts that were happening at the end of the year last year, know this. I've been stressed the hell out. But I have been blessed beyond measure to know that God has kept me close, even when I didn't recognize it. So with that in mind, I hope that this episode was, actually, I don't hope nothing with this episode. I'm happy I got to get this off my chest, and I'm excited for the fruit that it will not just yield for me and from me, but that it will yield in you and for you. You might have some God-sized problems that you have been leery to be able to submit to Yahweh. I encourage you, anybody on the other side of my voice, surrender that issue to Jesus and say, God, please meet me here. My life is yours. Just meet me here and wait for the response. Just wait. I promise you will hear back. It may not come how you want, but it will come how you need. I'm telling you now, it is always proven true. There is no such thing as an unanswered prayer. So pray. I'm praying for and with you. I'll say it now. Hey, oh God, I don't know who's listening to this right now, but I know this to be certain, that at the end of the day, there is somebody on the other side of this screen who has a problem that only you can resolve. And I pray that they submit it to you today, and that as you show up, their eyes, ears, heart, soul are all moved to closer intimacy and relationship with you, that their heart not be hardened, but it be softened for the nature of them being able to enter into relationship with you. Amen. And so with that, I would like to say, I love y'all. I do. You're going to see a bunch of content from me. I got a bunch of it in the storehouse. I got a bunch that we're still continuing to make. I am on a bit of a hiatus from making content for the next few weeks. You understand why. But know this. God is not done with you. And just when you think you have hit your darkest of hour, understand that Jesus, the light of the world, can come illuminate your situation. Love y'all. I'm asking for you guys to love on me here. I'm going to be giving you my heart, my soul, my everything in the content I produce, from scripted content, because I have a whole lot of like scripted ideas that I'm going to be bringing to life. Some of them good, some of them bad. I want all the feedback. I'm going to be, my Patreon is going to be getting released at the end of this month. And so I would love for you to support me there. People love to say like, support local art. Well, this is an opportunity to put the money behind it. So that way artists can continue to create and support and do the things that they love to do, and you can continue to get the awesome content from it.